Hello, my name is Anthony Ayeni. Today I have Brandon Bailey as my guest. Brandon Bailey is the assistant coach for the Boston Celtics in the National Basketball Association. He spent some time serving as the head coach for the Celtics NBA G League affiliate, the Maine Red Claws. And I know you switched roles a bit with the Celtics. So just to know what your job role is currently right now, for a better introduction, what would you say is your current job role?
Yeah, right now I'm just a scout for pro personnel. So do some advanced scouting. So it's I go to games and get play calls on the opponents that the team is about to play, and then also contribute to like player evaluations for trades, for the draft, free agency, things like that. And that includes like evaluating them and their skill sets, but also like getting intel on them as people and players and things like that. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Oh no! So you would say that your main, or like, if I was going to introduce you right now, it would be a scout personnel.
Yeah, it's probably more so scout for the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
I did video for them. Assistant coach, head G League coach. Kind of did almost every role in the organization other than head coach of the team. So yeah.
No, that's definitely great, and that's an impressive resume so far. So, Brandon, I just want to start off by saying thank you for joining me for this interview. I appreciate you taking time out of your day, because I know you have a busy schedule with your family, and then obviously scouting for the top draft picks in this upcoming draft, and as well as the NBA playoffs right around the corner. So I'm sure everyone in the organization and overall in the league is on top of their game. So thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, no, not a problem at all.
So the first question to you is, can you tell me about your upbringing?
Yeah, so my dad's a high school basketball coach in the north side of Chicago. He's been so for close to 40 years now, maybe more than that. So grew up around that and that environment, just going to games every weekend, being around the team and the players at practice. So basketball was always kind of something that I was always around and really enjoyed being around. And I knew I was never going to be good enough to play at a high level, just based on my skill set and physical attributes and things like that. So I knew pretty early on that if I wanted to stay in basketball, that I was going to have to coach and do those types of things. And growing up, the most influential people in my life were always coaches, whether it be my dad or obviously his assistant coaches. Like all those guys were huge, played huge roles in my life. Almost like second fathers, definitely like my uncles, and because of it, like they were great role models for me in terms of like how I wanted to pursue coaching and who I wanted to be as a coach as well. So that's kind of how I grew up and how I got to want to be a coach later on in life.
No, that's terrific to hear. You brought up so many good connections as far as like kind of what influenced you to be around the game. But I mean, as a kid growing up, like, because you grew up in the Chicagoland area, am I right?
Yeah. Grew up in the Chicagoland area. Grew up in Mount Prospect, Illinois. Originally was in Evanston. My dad coached at Weber High School, was an assistant there. Head coach at St. Gregory's, Dundee Crown. Then went to Elgin to be an assistant, Jim Harrington. And then has been at St. Pat's for now, I want to say close to like almost 3 years now, something like that. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So would you say, like, growing up as a kid, like, that your dad influenced you to like be like, okay, Brandon, you're gonna come out here and play basketball, or like you just naturally gravitated towards it?
Yeah, I'd say I more so naturally gravitated toward it. Like, it was never any pressure to do it. Something I even try to take to my kids now. Like, I was just always around it. And just naturally, like, again, like, my role models, obviously grew up in the Michael Jordan, Chicago area.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also like Keith Yapchek, Anthony Scala, Terry Frigo, Anna Sinsky, Ron French, like all these guys, like some of these names probably don't mean anything to the people that, that you're presenting this to, but like, those were like big heroes in my life, and they were all players from my dad. So just naturally just kind of gravitated towards that, and wanted to be like those guys, and naturally just want to be around my dad. Like, if you wanted to be around him, especially during the season, you either had to go to games or you had to go to practices. So I naturally always had a ball in my hand. He had great coaches around him. A lot of them are like great head coaches right now in the Chicagoland area. So kind of developed a good understanding of like what great coaching is, and like how to go about doing that. They're all great teachers as well. So just kind of naturally developed a love for the game, and then if I wanted to continue to be a part of it, I needed to coach. So.
No, I definitely like hearing about just a simple fact about how you growing up. It seems like you had all these pieces around you that kind of just inspired you to want to be around the game, and I think that's just incredible to hear. So, how would you say that the game of basketball has influenced your life?
It's taught me a lot. Like, how to be a good teammate, and that can apply to every aspect of your life, whether it's your husband or a father, a friend, part of a greater family, like with being an uncle or whatever it is. Just how to be a bigger part or a small part of something bigger than yourself. Taught me a lot about hard work and what that takes. I was never a great athlete. I never had great physical attributes. So if I wanted to even play on my high school team, which my dad coached, I needed to work extremely hard to do so in order to separate myself. Again, just because of being a coach's son, you're never going to be handed anything, especially from my father. And because of it, I had to work just that much harder than that. So just like the main, two pillars in my life, to really just be a great teammate and work as hard as you can to improve as much as you can. So I learned those two aspects certainly from basketball and the teams that I've been a part of, whether I've been playing or coaching. So.
No, I definitely like that. Definitely, I think just as far as you talk about your experience with like working hard towards what you wanted and never really getting anything just handed to you is just real captivating and inspiring, because a lot of times some people don't realize what they have or the worth of what they have until it's gone. So like I think when you can really work hard for what you want to achieve in life and then go after it and do it, it makes the experience even more sweet. And I mean that's what it definitely sounds like what you had growing up. Did you in relation to just like sports and basketball, did you play any other sports growing up as a kid?
No, I played baseball. Through like junior high and elementary school, but I really wanted to focus on basketball. Later on in 8th grade and 7th grade and in high school. So no, I really just tried to focus as much as I could on that again, because I needed to in order to even get the time that I ended up getting. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
No, I didn't end up playing anything else. I like baseball a lot. I just chose not to later on.
Yeah, you kind of sound like me a little bit. Like for me, I played a lot of sports growing up as a kid, but my favorite sport by far, and it will always be, has been basketball. I've always just been drawn towards it, and like being in the Chicagoland area, you hear about like for me, like my childhood growing up was like watching players like Derrick Rose or like D Wade play and those are guys that come from Chicago. So I was like looking up to those players growing up as a kid, and I'm just like, all right, Chicago is like a very upbeat sports city. So I was always around that, and that's kind of just what made my perspective go towards the game of basketball versus other sports. Um, but as we transition over to my next question, so with your coaching career, when did you realize that that you were good at coaching and maybe you had a chance of playing, or no, you had a chance of coaching at the next level?
I mean, I wouldn't, I don't think there's ever, I still think I have a lot to improve on and work on and to get better at. I mean, how I really got to the next level was just, or like different levels, whether it's high school, college, or professional, was just, always being willing to be available and, help others, like regardless of, you receiving anything else in return, again, like that goes back, I feel like, to the lessons I've learned of like being a good teammate and supporting others. And, I always tried to do different jobs. Nothing was too big for me to do. I was always available to do extra things, those jobs. And, that just kind of led to, them offering me to give me a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more responsibility. And then, something ended up coming out of that, whether that was from somebody seeing my work or those people that I helped, recommending me to other people. So, I don't think it was ever an instance where I was like, I need to take myself to like a different level, or I was never in pursuit of something greater. It was more so just trying to do the best I could at where I was at and try to find different ways to add value to the people that I was helping. That led me to where I was, or where I am right now. So.
Okay. So would you say, like, or actually, just from like hearing you talk, it sounds like supporting others, being unselfish, and I mean, pretty much in a lot of sense, saying yes to as many opportunities that presented itself is kind of what landed you to where you are today. So
I'd say so. You're just trying to get as much work as you can and trying to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And to me, that's what you get into team sports. Like you're trying to do something together with other people and accomplish something like more than what you could have done by yourself. So I was always just trying to add value anywhere at any time, for the people I was working with and working for,
No, that's definitely great to hear. So my next question to you is, can you tell me about a difficult time you had in your life and how you were able to overcome it? It can relate to life or just the game of basketball, being around it.
The most difficult time in my life was last summer when Coach Stevens took a different position in the organization, and I had to find a different role, a different job, just because of worked hard to get to a certain spot and had to kind of start over. And not only that, I had a lot of people counting on me, relying on me with my family. So, that was the biggest part. My wife helped me out a lot during that time. She was super supportive in everything that I was doing. Never put any extra stress on myself or on me during that time. If anything, tried to alleviate that as best as she could. Support of others as well, but she was the main reason why, I kind of got through all that, and, out on the other side to where I am right now. So.
No, that's very touching because like ultimately, and when times get tough, they're really the only people you can rely on the most is family, and it seems like during that time your family had your back, and also just as far as like when you mentioned Coach Stevens, are you talking about Brad Stevens, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. No, but that's great. So, I mean, I know you mentioned how your family was there for support, but like, how else were you like? What like besides family? What else did it take for you to overcome it? Like, did you feel like like I won't be able to work for the Celtics anymore, or like work for my team, or?
I think the biggest thing I found was, letting go of any kind of personal, like that there was nothing personal about any of it, and, whether it was like jobs I didn't get or, the fact that I wasn't coaching in Boston anymore, like you don't deserve anything, nothing's personal, and just once I kind of got over that aspect of it, I was able to move on a little bit better and, like put myself in a better position to get a job, later on, so, whether it's this spring, summer, next year, whatever it is. So, I think that's just the biggest thing, just kind of let go of any thought that, this wasn't about me, wasn't, anything personal, and, you don't deserve really anything, and just trying to move on from there and trying to put myself in the best situation possible, for the future. Because that's all I could really do. That was the only thing that was under my control, So.
No, I definitely feel that, and you have to be very strong-willed and like just be very optimistic. And I'm definitely sensing that about you. So that's definitely motivating, and I appreciate you telling me about that. So,
Yeah.
From just me researching a little bit about you and trying to find anything I can about your career and your profile, I see that you worked with DePaul women's basketball coach Doug Bruno.
Yep.
And you attended DePaul University, right?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Okay. And you also worked with Tim Grover, which is incredible because I actually saw him. I didn't see him in person, but like I just came across him on social media, and I see this guy was a trainer for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Dwayne Wade, and that's impressive. And while you were working with Tim, I saw that you were a player development intern. Can you tell me about how you got to meet him and how you got to have a connection with him?
It was, trying to add value at the different spots I was at. I was working at camp somewhere in the western suburbs, and his head of player development, Mike Procopio, met me and just saw me working in different things at the camp and told me they were about to open up a gym called Attack Athletics on the west side of Chicago. And they needed some people to help them rebound, shag balls, pass, help them maintain the gym, open it up, close it, pretty much, do video, like help him edit some stuff for video. Pretty much be, again, like a jack of all trades there for them. So, again, just jumped at that opportunity. It's like it wasn't going to pay much of anything. Wasn't expecting that at all. And yeah, just that's pretty much how it happened. I met Tim there when I got there. And yeah, that was pretty much it.
So how would you say that some of these trainers and coaches that you were around during this time kind of influenced you, or like what piece of advice did they give you that kind of helped you trying to find a footing in your career?
Yeah, I was around Mike a lot more. Mike, his biggest thing was his organization, his preparation, for the workouts that he was presenting. He studied film all the time. Was always super prepared and ready for the players, for any questions that they had, and also for the drills that they were doing. Things like that. He was very detailed and but short and concise with the way he taught, which was excellent. Tim was outstanding. He's obviously a very impressive guy. He always, he did a lot of the things himself around the gym. He'd take out the garbage. He would fill up the water, the Gatorade cases with Gatorade, things like that. Even, there's no task that was too big for him either. I always respected that and trying to learn from that and took that at every spot that I was at. There's never going to be anything that's too big for you to do. Again, very detail-oriented, extremely hard-working, first guy there, last guy to leave. Again, just outstanding, two outstanding role models for me, especially in the professional game. That was my first view of what it was like to, work with pros and things like that, and just when they carried themselves and the way they taught and spoke to those guys, really helped me and gave me good models for me as I kind of moved on, different aspects of basketball, different aspects of coaching.
That's definitely impressive, and I mean, you're already kind of sharing so much knowledge with me already, as far as things you need to look into in order to do for you to be great at whatever you're doing. So can you tell me transitioning into your next phase of your career after DePaul, how you got a landing role of working for the Celtics?
Yeah, again, it was just, one of the interns I worked with was a video coordinator for Boston.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at DePaul. He left to be a video coordinator in Golden State when Mark Jackson first got there. And, without me kind of knowing, he put my name in for the same position that he had in Boston. And, I got a call from them, and that's how I got the job. Again, it wasn't like I politicked or, actively sought it out. It was mainly just people saw my work and saw the value that I could add to a team or an individual, and kind of good things just kind of came of that,
So when you were at DePaul, were you a manager or something?
Yeah, so I was a manager for Doug, and then I was a graduate assistant for the men's team for Jerry Wainwright and Oliver Purnell. So, and then in the summers, I would work for Tim my junior and senior year of college, and then kind of on and off when I was a graduate assistant, because it was a little bit more, in depth and stuff like that. That would be a little more responsibility that I had in the summertime. It was more off and on during graduate school, but I worked all summer, my junior and senior year of regular undergrad. So.
Wow. Okay. Um, that's a lot. That's definitely a lot of good information to know about because I actually have some friends that manage as well on the DePaul basketball team right now. So I think whenever you can like get your foot in the door in any industry you put yourself in, a lot of things can come out of it. So I appreciate you telling me about that. So I mean, kind of just to talk a little bit about what the Celtics and everything. Would you say like because I see when you first started at the Celtics, you were like a video department or video intern, and you came around the time when like the Celtics had just like kind of the big three was still around. Am I right or wrong? Like Ray Allen, Kevin
Yeah,
Garnett, and Paul
yeah. So
Pierce.
my first year, I was a video intern. Didn't get paid during that time. At the time, you didn't have to pay interns.
Mm-hmm.
That year we went to the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7 against the Heat with LeBron and Wade and Bosh. And then the next year I got brought on full time as an assistant video coordinator. Both years for Doc, and then the next couple of years Brad was there for Stevens. I was a video coordinator for him. Ended up doing a lot of like play call stuff for him and their staff, like in terms of labeling and frequencies. That led to me having the opportunity to have scouts. So I had a third of the teams for scouts defensively, and did like walkthroughs for a third of the teams, video sessions, post-game analysis, stuff like that. Did that for 2 years, and then essentially did the job of an assistant for those 2 years. I was the video coordinator, and then was the head coach in Maine for 2 years. It's their G League team, and then came back to be an assistant for Brad again for 2 years. Went to the bubble, went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and yeah, last year just made the change after Brad made the change. So
Okay.
I went to 4 Eastern Conference Finals in my time in Boston.
That's impressive. The Celtics are definitely a historic franchise, and I mean, you telling me about all the experiences you saw about in your time in Boston is impressive because I mean the Celtics are hot right now, so we'll see what they do this playoff run. But no, that's definitely really cool to hear about your experience with that. So, with you, when you started your career in coaching and kind of just like scout and like player development, like did you have a career plan like laid out? Like you wanted to do this, while you were in college or even high school.
No, I mean, I knew I wanted to coach. I knew I wanted to be around basketball in some capacity. I was at the time, like for the longest time, I just wanted to take over at Pats whenever that was. That'd be my dream. And then just kind of new opportunities just kept opening up against with different people I worked for and different people that saw my work, whatever. I was fortunate to get different experiences, and I felt like made me grow and got a lot better at different things. So I never had a set path, I'd say. Like it wasn't like something like what is a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan or whatever. It was more so again just like how can I add value to where I'm at? How can I be the best teammate I can be? And everything else can kind of take care of itself if I just kind of add value, selflessly help the people that I'm with, whether it's players, coaches, front office, administration, whatever it is. So, I wouldn't say I had a plan per se. It was more just like be really good with where I'm at, and it'll lead me to where I'm supposed to be. Kind of thing.
No, I definitely understand that. It kind of seems like you are more in the mindset of like, I'll figure it out as I go, but like I'm also just going to continue to apply myself with whatever I'm doing, and I know opportunities will present itself, which is great. So, did you ever like, just from like your career so far, have you ever experienced any burnout or otherwise lack confidence? Because I know coaching can be difficult a lot of times when you're trying to develop chemistry, help players understand plays, and play the right way. And I have a little bit of experience coaching, but before I give my own take, I would love to hear yours.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever had burnout before. I think that's the biggest, actually, one of the biggest skills I have is my capacity for work. Like, I can, I always, if I am not doing anything, I get really antsy and just feel like I need to be doing something, So I've never really ever been burnt out before. Anything like if I'm taking a break, I feel like I should be working, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question there?
Have you ever lacked confidence with coaching?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've had what they call like imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had that. I have it all the time. Like even now, I think the biggest thing I learned was when I was at DePaul. I was in an education course because I was going to be a secondary education teacher, and to be a high school basketball coach. And it was like, it wasn't a midterm, but it was something in the middle of the course, and we had to get up and give a presentation. And I fainted in the middle of the presentation because I just wasn't ready, wasn't prepared at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because of it, I got like super nervous and just fainted in the middle of it. And then every education course I had after that, if I saw like there was a presentation in it, I would just drop it. So obviously, presenting is a big part of teaching. It's a big part of coaching. I think like the biggest thing that helped me get over it was two things. Like I took a improv class, which helped me get over it. Just like kind of getting out of myself and kind of being goofy a little bit and everything like that. And you're like always getting up and presenting pretty much every single class. And then something really like struck me with a couple people that I worked for. I didn't work for him, but Tibbs was big in Chicago when I was in college. He was the head coach of the Bulls. And one of the things that he said was your confidence comes from your preparation, And then when I worked at the Celtics, their defensive coordinator was Mike Longobardi, and he would always be on the court prior to a walkthrough, just like literally just going over his walkthrough on the court, like almost like a dry run, like walking through, vocalizing what he would say, this and that. And, I really learned that because especially like of who I am. I'm short, didn't play, I'm a little goofy looking. Players are already going to like kind of look at you a little sideways.
Yeah.
So, I always had to make sure that I was the most prepared person in the gym on any staff. I always had to know what we were doing, why we were doing it, and like how we were doing it. And then, be ready for any questions that may come from the players and be ready to be challenged by them for anything, that may come up and have the answers for that. And Boston's a really special place, not only like with the organization, with like the front office coaches, PT, like things like that, but the players are also like just super great. Like every single player that has kind of really come through there for the most part has been super respectful and great to work with. But it's just something that I like had to really get down and get on top of everything and make sure that, I was like the most prepared out of anybody in the gym to, number one, make myself comfortable, and number two, make sure that, they weren't going to look at me a certain type of way.
No, I definitely can relate to that. Like literally with almost everything you just mentioned, just as far as, and I think that's kind of like the reason why like I transitioned into like sports communications, and I wanted to be more vocal with like my interpersonal skills and just really express how I truly felt in front of the cameras or in front of air instead of behind the scenes. And I definitely I loved it. That's a great story because I can definitely take a couple of notes out that book. And I mean, it seems like for you, it was more so preparation and kind of just having that willpower to like figure out things as you go, but like also know that you can do it and have faith in yourself that like pushed you to where you are today. So I appreciate that.
Another thing I like being like imposter syndrome stuff. Like I feel like that is how I've kind of gotten here too. Like, I'm not saying being insecure is a good thing, but I don't think I'd be here without that. Like it's helped me not be content and continue to work harder and prepare for longer, and watch a couple of extra minutes of film to jot down a few extra notes and look up a couple extra stats and things like that. So like some people try to combat that insecurity where that's kind of where I thrive. I don't really try to run from it. If anything, I try to embrace it as much as I can.
No, that's definitely very touching, and I just like the simple fact that you mentioned that even when you're faced with adversity, you're still going to go headstrong and fight through it to prevail. So I appreciate you mentioning that. So now I just have a couple more questions for you. We're at the end stage of our interview. So again, I thank you. Again, I appreciate you just talking to me about all these things so far. And we only have a couple more questions left. So the next question is like, I know you kind of mentioned it earlier, but what's your why? Like, what's your why today? Like, what motivates you to be your best, and like what with what you do as a career and what you do in life? Where does that center you around, or like go back to at the end of the day?
Yeah, man, I think two things. One, like number one, obviously, is my family. I have my wife and my 4 kids. It's always going to be my why. It might not have been that prior to me getting married, but as soon as I did and had kids, it just naturally becomes your why for why you do anything, right? You're there to support them and help them do whatever it is they need to do, and part of that is your ability to financially support them as well. From like a just straight up like, why do I want to do this job specifically? I think it's mainly just this is the NBA is the peak of the basketball profession. It's the highest in problem solving in basketball. Like how do you guard Kevin Durant? How do you guard James Harden, Joel Embiid? How do you defend? This action or that action, whatever, based on the personnel that you have at any given night. And then also being around those same types of guys, like how do you help, Jason Tatum? How do you help, Kevin Garnett? How do you help Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, Isaiah Tyler? How do you help all these guys be their best? I think that's just kind of always been my why. I want to be at the top of my profession, which is, don't think I'm going to ever have an opportunity, nor do I think I want to be a head coach of the NBA, but I would really like to be a lead assistant on a championship NBA team, because that would just be the pinnacle of my profession. You know, we would be the best team in the league. The players that I worked with would be some of the top in the world, if not the best in the world, based because of the championship that we had just won. So, I think that's just my general why I want to be in professional basketball, specifically, is just working for the best, helping the best become the best, So.
No, I love that answer, because that's truly, at the end of the day, I mean, you mentioned one thing being family. That's kind of what everything stems back to at the end of the day. They're the people that are always going to be there for you when you're up or when you're down. And then you just also highlighting some personal goals for yourself that you want to achieve in life is something that's going to continue to motivate you. Because even when you achieve your goal, there's always going to be another goal that you want to achieve. So it's just going to keep being a building block. So I appreciate you sharing that about yourself. And so I have two more questions for you. This one is, what advice would you give to a student like me that wants to work in the sports industry, particularly focusing in sports communications?
Yeah, I think it's just, the way I kind of described it earlier is the way I live my life, not just in my profession, but also with my family or my friends and things like that. And that's just, be a good teammate and, relentlessly try to improve yourself every single day. And I feel like the rest of that will kind of take care of itself, whether it's opportunities or, whatever it is, So, and being a good teammate to me is, trying to add value to the people you're working with and working for, not expecting anything in return, and, helping them to the best of your ability, And, I feel like everything else, as cliche as it sounds, will take care of itself, and that's kind of how I've lived my life, and it's kind of how I've gotten to where I am. And I'm a big believer in all that stuff. It's the way I kind of teach my kids to live their lives, to grow and get better every single day. And also, we're part of a team as a family. You're a part of a team as a classroom and as a sports team. Whatever part of your life you're a part of. Or whatever aspect of your life it is. So. I would apply that if I was in this job or, on the business side or art or, whatever. You know what I mean? So, that's what I would say.
I mean, no, I definitely appreciate you talking about that. I feel like the big word that keeps coming back to my head when I hear you talk about all these things is being unselfish, and also just doing things for people, even if you're not nothing is expected to come back to you. And I think that is something I can definitely apply more to my life. Just about caring more about others and trying to connect people towards a bigger goal. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Now I'm going to be closing just to say this is a big thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to just be with me and talk to me about your experience of life and work, coaching, and the game of basketball has taken you. I appreciate your time, and I hope, again, we can stay in touch. To those watching, thank you for joining me. This has been Anthony Ayeni with Brandon Bailey. So thank you for coming in and listening, and I hope everyone enjoys their day.
Thanks for your interest. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.